And here's why I like to ask people about how they handle their successes, because I want to find out if they're humble. I want to find out if they really do care about their teammates, their team members. Do they really respect ownership and leadership? Do they realize that they're a part of an amazing team, right? It'd be like me saying, hey, you know what? I was a self-made boxer. I got to the top because I was willing to grind like nobody else would do. And you know what? That's a crock. Because if it wasn't for Michael Black, it wasn't for all those other guys, Adam Wella, all these other fighters that beat me up every day. I had two guys in college, 178-pounder Don Francesconi and Donnie Cole, 139. And I was fighting at 112, so they beat me up every day. And I guarantee you, when I won that title and got my hand raised, and I was on HBO, I'm telling you, those guys were part of that championship.
Yeah, they were on your mind when they ask you, like, who do you give credit to, or like, who do you owe this to, or whatever? How do you feel?
Yes.
I want to give thanks to my team, my coaches,
Yes.
everyone that helped me get to where I am today. Yeah. Not, I did everything alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like somebody says they're a self-made millionaire. That's not true. There's so many other people that you had surrounded yourself that had input. It's the old African proverb, right? You can go fast alone, but you can go further together.
Yeah.
And that's a greater feeling. And the aspect of humility is an absolute must virtue if you're going to succeed in any business endeavor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Dan Prado, motivational speaker and coach. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there any other way you would describe yourself?
You know, I do a lot of things under one umbrella, but specifically three. So my background in athletics has helped me tremendously into what I do now: inspirational speaking, motivational speaking, meeting with teams, meeting with athletes. And then also the mainstay of my income is, and has been for 35 years, selling high ticket metal cutting equipment to manufacturing companies and, contract machine shops. Then I also do the next best thing, which is kind of cool. I just really meet up winners, and I'm a 10% broker. I'm a strategic part sourcing guy. So I'll take products from the aerospace industry, semiconductor, oil and gas, et cetera, and I hook that up with those shops, and they pay me 10% residuals on those as long as I have that client in there. So it's great. And what's kind of interesting is that industry led me into the motivational speaking. It really did. It kind of segued into it. And I don't know if you could say it was accidentally. I think it was always meant to be. I just needed to find out when I was going to do it, right? And it took a few people to encourage me to do it. And a lot of my customers used to tell me, hey, I don't know what you eat and what you drink, but I want some of it, and I want some of my team people in my company to have it.
Yes.
And that's what it hit me. And I went, that's it. People need to be inspired. They need to be empowered. And so, I go with the philosophy from one of my guys that I follow, Ed Milet, one of the great influencers out there. I got his book behind me called The Power of One More. And I always think about what he said. It's kind of interesting. He says, it's one thing being motivated. So you got to have motivation. You need to be inspired. So you need inspiration. You need to aspire to be more. So you need aspiration. He said, but none of those work unless you have perspiration. Isn't that awesome, Robert?
Yeah.
When I hear that, that's the capper. That's like your coach or the leader on your team saying, hey, let me tell you how good it's going to feel when we get there. And then when you actually get there, you go, wow, that was awesome. Glad I went on that journey with you. Hey, but the key part of that journey is hitting a goal is a fabulous thing. And I share that with everybody. But the greatest treasure will always lie in what you had to become in the process of achieving it. Right? I did a little background on you. I love it. I mean, you had a point where you had it going, and then, oh my goodness, time to restart all over again. Took 3 years to get it ramped back up. But when you did, look out, world, you're smarter, you're a little bit faster, you surround yourself with people that are genuinely want you to succeed and want to be on that team with you. So it's an honor and privilege to be on with you this morning. And I'm glad that Dave Acosta connected me with you. Got a lot of great memories of Dave, from Team Alpha Male. I still speak for them. I go there and meet with the teams when I go into Northern California. So anyway, good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure, honor. I'm super into the motivational speaking kind of like lane. I read the books and listen to a lot of, I guess, podcasts, people who are putting the positive messages out there. And because you got to stay motivated, and because it's like the long journey, and we all wake up certain days. Maybe, I don't know about you. I do want to know what you eat and what you're, what is different about you that gives you that energy to share it with others, because it's, for me, I want to do the same thing. Honestly, I want to be kind of like where you're at as far as motivationally speaking to others, inspiring them. And I think I do through my action, but my just messaging is not, well, it's there because I have the story and I've read the books and I have a lot of the quotes or, things that, but there's something internal, like probably you might just be born with that you have so you're like overflowing in a way, to share with others.
I feel what you're saying. I really do. I know, the number one, I have a fourfold philosophy in my life. And I was sitting back around 2008, maybe 2009 in the backyard, and I'm having a glass of lemon water.
Okay.
And I was like, man, Danny, come on, man. Why are you on the face of the earth? You go back to the why, like Simon Sinek, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I saw that YouTube.
Yeah. So you got to know what your why is, right? So I started, writing down some things. And I started really digesting it. And I thought, you know what? I got it. The number one part of my fourfold philosophy is to empower people to see themselves and others better than they are. Now, that's on the subject you were talking about just a bit ago, right? You're talking about, you read the stuff, you listen to the quotes, you listen to other people, you want to grow, you aspire that. But certain people have maybe a different way of bringing it out. Now, that doesn't mean, I kind of find a little bit with you. It's kind of nice. I catch it a little bit. You may just have a little easier going demeanor, but believe me, you have passion that is burning like big time inside. And you've actually let some of that out already. And I bet you, very much like myself, you haven't even begun to let out the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it's coming. It's coming because that's how I look at things. So, and the way to get to that next step, in my opinion, for everybody listening and viewing is this, get better every day at what you do, and then add a little flavor like a good chef does to the recipe, right? Because we're creating recipes and formulas for life. So one is to empower people to see themselves better than they are, because they are. 2, to get better every day at what I do. Always the student. School never gets out. 3 is to build the very best relationships with people based on true appreciation for them. It's not just what I can get. And last but not least, have fun every day doing what I'm doing. So if you even got a little taste of what I'm about right now, I do like to find time to laugh and enjoy, because I heard it the other day. I said, you like Jim Valvano, because the ESPYs had come up and they were talking about that. He says, you wake up in the morning, you be happy, be grateful, have some gratitude, think throughout the day, use your mind, right? Be creative. And last but not least, cry some, let it out.
Yeah.
But, I thought about that. It's pretty good. Yeah.
I cry all the time over like silly things. I'll be watching a show. We watched this great pottery throwdown. They do pottery. It's on HBO Max. Yeah. And I do pottery with my wife, and the some of the work that they create is so inspiring, or just they put their heart into it, and then the host will start crying, and then I'll start crying.
It's a cry fest after that.
I know.
And all that is the power of emotion, right? It's the power of emotion. I have found that to be so true in any aspect of life. I mean, when I was coaching high school wrestling, when I was fighting on the wrestling on the NCAA Division II level, qualifying for the national championships, exciting time of my life, and then boxing for the college and winning a national club boxing title on HBO back in '82 was exciting. Wow. And then you go in the Golden Gloves, and I ended up getting trained by a great professional, and he picked me apart and he humbled me. I remember coming into the gym the first day. Oh, Robert, this was so funny. I come in, and his name was Irish Terry Lee Edson from California. He was in the Bay Area, and he was a light heavyweight. He actually fought on some of the undercards of Foreman and Frazier. And he fought some great fighters in the area, but he had heard about me. So he said, "Hey, so are you that national collegiate club boxing champion that was on HBO and you won the national title at 112 pounds?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hey, could you do me a favor? I heard you're going to come in here and you want to box. Just show me your left hook." So I show him my left hook, and he says, "That's absolutely horrible." Now, this is 1982. I guess times have changed quite a bit, because back then it was the school of hard knocks. Coaches told you exactly how it was. It's like any leader today that should tell you how it is, because I'd rather know that I'm really not good yet so that I can get better, instead of somebody lying to me and saying, "Hey, you know what? You're awesome right now." Well, that may be good to make me feel good for a moment. Okay, now tell me how I can become even more awesome and amazing. And so what he did is he changed my game. He literally turned my game around, would bring in some, we had a lot of professionals would come in and fight in there. And he had one guy that was amazing fighter out of Napa, California. His name was Michael Black. And when you look at him, he was super thin. Like, well, you got to think, 112 pounders. Yeah. So we're going to be small anyway. But he's just an easy, quiet demeanor, blue eyes, blonde hair, looked like a surfer. He's like, "How you doing, Danny?" He goes, "Terry asked me to come on and work with you." Now, he had already had 80 amateur fights. He had already been a national champion all through his early years. He's 17 years old. I'm 22 or 23. Boy, was I humbled. And did I get better? So what I found out is that, sharpen the saw. And the way you sharpen the saw is you surround yourself with people that are going to take you to areas you've never been before. And that's my whole thing now, is I want to take people to areas they've never been before, because that's what you're going to find out what you're all about. And in the process of doing that, I find out what I'm all about. I've got a lot of work to do. I'm a work in progress. See, that's the one thing you and I have in common, in the audience, is we're all a work in progress. And one of the things that stops us from being successful or shooting to be really excellent at certain things is we're afraid. And we're afraid of failure. Mm-hmm. And people fear the things they know the least about. And so I believe this sums it up. The one thing that success and failure have in common is they're both temporary. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to pass. Yeah. Right? You have a choice. It's Jeffrey Gitomer, one of the tough Northeast sales guys, who authored many books, and one of his books is The Little Red Book of Sales. And he says, I come from the Northeast. He says, let me tell you something. They eat you up and spit you out there. He says, if you don't have tough skin. And so what you have to do is develop that tough skin. And you either develop it when something happens to you, or you're smart enough to learn from somebody else before it does happen, so that you're ready for it.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, that reminds me of the Army a little bit, the tough love that they give you during basic training and AIT. I mean, and you're talking about the Northeast, and they're known for being tough and to the point and kind of brutal and hard, because it's cold, I guess. I'm not sure why.
I think I think that's part of it. Oh, Robert, that's funny. Keep going. I want to hear it.
I respond well to that type of kind of communication, where they're being tough with you and not so coddling, and you step up or you fold. And I grew in those environments, especially in the Army. I didn't join until I was 26, and I was kind of soft, I think, up until that point where I was put in a position to like test myself against my peers, and put in a position where someone's yelling at me and telling me I'm never going to make it, and how are you going to handle that? And I rose to the occasion in that environment, and I kind of miss it because I don't. Now I'm the boss, and I am nice. I don't talk to people too harshly because of the day and age we live in. Yeah, it's a different world.
Oh, there's adjustments for sure. Oh yeah. I do a lot of sales training for companies, and I'm working with the team right now, and that's what's happening. I think it's being able to read people's characteristics and what makes some tick and some don't. And that's the beauty of coaching. If you think as a coach you have arrived, you're making a huge mistake. You're going to plateau out, and people are not going to find a way to connect with you, your athletes, your team members. The other day I was having a talk with a leader of a company, and he says, I just want to let you know, Danny, I want to be on the same page with you. I said, I do too. And he says, I just need to let you know my title here is, director of sales. And I said, I want to be very respectful here, but I pulled a little northeast on him. I said, I don't care what your title is. Your title means absolutely nothing. And I say the same to me and everybody else. Your title is the ability to empower and lead people and help them gain the knowledge and the trust and the confidence that they convey on a daily basis, so they become more valuable, which leads to success, but most importantly, leads to success of other people, because your job as a leader is to influence and get people to join you for the cause, right? And the cause must be just like this, because this is where human beings feel their very best, Robert, when they're contributing to something worthy and something wholesome. We'll go through a wall if it's worthy and wholesome, but if it's something out of a carny act, we're like, sorry, buddy, I'm getting that one-way ticket. I'm heading home. Yeah. You're not the leader that I thought you were, and you're not a leader that I ever want to copy. So this is what I said to the gentleman after we got off the phone. He goes, boy, okay, that makes sense to me, Danny. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it should. Yeah. Humility.
Yeah, don't listen to me because of my title. Listen to me because of my actions and what I'm showing you, and how I mean, like in the Army, I learned to lead from the front and, charge ahead. And if I'm not willing to do it, I'm not going to ask you to do it, type thing. So I'm not any better than you. We're both humans. We're both on this journey of life trying to do the best we can.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you nailed it right there, Robert. Honestly, you hit it right on the head. Humble, hungry, and smart. That's a great acronym, and it comes from a great book called The Ideal Team Player, written by Patrick Lencioni. Now, Patrick wrote this book because he made a point to say companies can get to certain levels, but you can't get there without choosing the right people. So there was a criteria that he used. He said, I didn't care if you graduated from college, Ivy League, Rhodes Scholar. He said, if you didn't have HHS, you're not on my team. Humble doesn't mean you think, less of yourself. It just means you think of yourself less often. And hungry means you're always a student, and you always want to grow. You always want to grow to another level. And the smart part, he was talking about not so much book smart. He was talking about people smart, reading a room, reading the situation. And, what you get in many companies, and when I speak with organizations and leaders, I said there's a huge difference between cooperation and collaboration. Cooperation says, hey, why don't we get along so I at least get something done? Where collaboration says, why don't we work together as a team so we get what has to get done? The key, what we have to get done. That's it. And when you think about it that way, everybody plays a role. Like John Maxwell said in his book, The 17 Indisputable Laws of Teamwork. It's the law of the niche. Everybody on a team has some value to add to the company, to the team, that leads them to victory. And when you win as a team, that is one of the most amazing feelings in the world. And I compare it to this. I was in individual sports. I loved it. I loved to control as much as I could control. But when I hit a golf shot, and if I'm golfing by myself, and I go, wow, what a great shot. Nobody was here to see it. Darn it. But when you're with the team and you hit a great, you throw an overhand right, put a body combo, and your teammates outside the ring are watching it, your coach, and you drop this guy, and they're like, dude, that was awesome. And you're like, yeah, it was, because you did the same thing to me last week in the ring. Remember? That's why I kept my hand up this time. So there's so much we can learn from so many people. And
yeah, as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking how grateful I am to have this opportunity, and I do appreciate, again, you taking this time. And
oh yeah, it's a pleasure.
Because I could not be doing the podcast, and I wouldn't be afforded the opportunity to talk to these high achievers. I mean, I've talked to UFC champions and best-selling authors, and now you, and just getting the energy, even transfer, the knowledge transfer, like what do you do that's different, that sets you apart, and how can I utilize that, and how can I share that with my team, and how to make them better? Because I have a team and they're great, and we've been together for about 10 years now, and I've had one guy quit, and that actually happened kind of recently, and that's unfortunate. But in 10 years, no one quit. I didn't have to.
Wow.
I had to fire a couple of people, but only a couple, because in my experience in the Army, you couldn't fire people. You had to kind of work with who was on your team. And
yes.
So how, you're saying, hire the right people, but how do you make the people you have exist, currently better? You know what I mean?
Oh, I like this. This is a twofold one here. So I'm going to answer it, Robert. This is good. So what you have is, when you meet potential team members, in the back of your mind, the team members you have now and how they are effectively communicating and achieving things together, right? So you already have a bit of a formula, right? You've got a template and you see it working. Now you have to refine it. You got to get on the potter's wheel. You got to throw the chunk of clay on there, and you got to begin to form and reform and reshape sometimes. But you don't have to reshape as much as you think. It'd be like an athlete and a boxer. Like when I'm in the ring, it's about slight adjustments. You talk to any UFC fighter, MMA fighter, it's not huge adjustments. It's slight adjustments that make all the difference in the world. But let's get to the beginning part, because this is huge. I just shared this the other day with a group. It's not so much getting the people in your organization is what makes the organization. However, it's getting the right people in your organization. So that's part of the interviewing process. So the first three things that I believe you should look at that are an absolute must are, number one, is this person a self-starter? Right? Is this person hey, I got some energy. I may not have the knowledge yet. I'm looking forward to you to training me, Robert, and the team training me. But let me tell you, I'm ready to go. I'm a self-starter. You get me going, hand me the baton, I'll get it across the line. You're like, okay, that's great. Secondly, is you got to find out, if they truly have an amazing attitude. If their attitude is just okay, I'm part of a team. And last but not least, do they have a history of past success? Because that'll give you some idea, right? Now, this is really key. I love to ask this. Not many people ask this stuff, because these are real questions. And then you got to really listen carefully to the responses. First question is, how do you handle success? And how do you handle failure? Now, the key right here is watch out for the me, I did this if it wasn't for me, right? The other side is failure. man, that owner, I just didn't like him. He was just, he talked down to all of us and he was just a jerk. And, but man, I'm really excited about joining your company. And you're like, there ain't no way you're getting past this front door. So that is a great thing to do. And here's why I like to ask people about how they handle their successes, because I want to find out if they're humble. I want to find out if they really do care about their teammates, their team members. Do they really respect ownership and leadership? Do they realize that they're a part of an amazing team, right? It'd be like me saying, hey, you know what? I was a self-made boxer. I got to the top because I was willing to grind like nobody else would do. And you know what? That's a crock. Because if it wasn't for Michael Black, it wasn't for all those other guys, Adam Wella, all these other fighters that beat me up every day. I had two guys in college, 178-pounder Don Francesconi and Donnie Cole, 139. And I was fighting at 112, so they beat me up every day. And I guarantee you, when I won that title and got my hand raised, and I was on HBO, I've been telling you, those guys were part of that championship.
Yeah, they were on your mind when they ask you, like, who do you give credit to, or like, who do you owe this to, or whatever? How do you feel?
Yes.
I want to give thanks to my team, my coaches,
Yes.
everyone that helped me get to where I am today. Yeah. Not, I did everything alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like somebody says they're self-made millionaire. That's not true. There's so many other people that you had surrounded yourself that had input. It's the old African proverb, right? You can go fast alone, but you can go further together.
Yeah.
And that's a greater feeling. And the aspect of humility is an absolute must virtue if you're going to succeed in any business endeavor. Now, it's interesting you bring up, the interviewing. I mean, as far as, bringing on the right team people, that is crucial. And when they answer you maybe something like this, hey, you know what? I had an owner that I was, working with, and a team that I was working with. It started off well, but I started to see some traits that I just didn't like. It was against my character and my strengths of teamwork. And look at the owner. They have to make decisions. I respect that. I just decided it was best for me to make a change. Now, you as the interviewer are going to be a lot more respectful of that. You're going to go, hey,
right.
Okay, I get it. Maybe there's an opportunity to grow with this person. And time usually tells, right? If you're there the first 2 weeks in the month and you start seeing the traits of this person, right? Do they got a good work ethic? Do they really care about team, right? Here's two areas of great growth. And I got this from a gentleman named Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N.
One of my best friends is another business owner.
Yeah.
He always is listening to Jim Rohn. He has like remixes where there's like music in the background.
Yes.
And
yeah. I love it. Yeah, when I'm working out at the gym, I'll be at the gym later on tonight, and I get an hour and a half in there, and I listen to Jim Rohn. I like him. But he said 2 areas of great growth that you find in people and really listen for it and watch for it. When they're willing to give credit to others where they need none for themselves, and be willing to give without expecting anything in return. That's a tough one, that last one. Because if somebody said, why would I do that? Right? And Jim said, let's say you work for an organization and you were the first one in and the last one out, but you still got paid the same. But that work ethic that you had created, that pattern of always doing more than what you're asked to do, so that someday you're paid more for what you do, that philosophy, another Jim Rohn philosophy there that I said, always do more than what you're asked to do so that someday you're paid more for what you do. If that organization belly undered, guess what? Some other organization is going to be the true beneficiary of your fire, determination, work ethic, value that you have created, because we all get paid in this world according to the value that we bring to an industry, a market, a company, or a customer. That's how we get paid. Your business is no different. You've created a great value which has taken time. No overnight sensation. I always tell people, instant coffee never tastes like really good coffee. Right? There's a process on how these beans are cured, and then, man, when they go into this grinding process and they're pressed properly, and you could just taste it. When you taste it, it's like, yeah, baby. That instant coffee, you're like, wait a minute. So no instant success in life, right? Never. And back to the pottery thing, what I love about pottery is you start with just a hunk of clay. And I had a ceramics class in high school. When you brought that up, I wanted to hit on that. That was one of my most fun classes around because it gave me an opportunity as an athlete to get out of that athletic mindset and get into the creative, artistic side of it. And I love shaping it. I made these little bowls and goblets and stuff, and I couldn't wait to, get it into the kiln and, put all my, cobalt blue on it, glaze on it, my cobalt blue. That was my favorite color in there.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun with that.
You have a great memory.
Oh yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
It is.
I'm pretty fortunate. I've got a wonderful family. I grew up in a wonderful family, and I had great coaches that pushed me to levels that I never thought I was capable of and got me to believe in myself. And I just want to continue sharing that with others today. And I really make a point to try to elevate people's game. And I'm not always the best at it. I'll be upfront. I'm not always the best at it, but I sure have that upbeat attitude to get right back into it. I have little triggers that if I get too down, I get back up fast. So anyway, there you go.
Well, okay. That's interesting because I have triggers, and I guess we all do. It's like a relatively new phenomenon. I'm triggered or whatever, but and at first I'm like, oh, you're just weak, quit being weak. But then I find I get triggered from time to time for whatever it might be that'll bring me down. And I guess the way I get out of it is through I'll like exercise a lot of times, maybe some meditation or something to just kind of like snap me out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was going to ask, like, what do you do?
Well, I think I probably go right back to the fundamentals. I've come to find anything in athletics and life or come back to the basic fundamentals. So for example, when you're living a good life versus maybe living a bad life, it always comes down to people, places, and things.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. People, places, and things. Where are you going? What are you doing? How are you getting there? I always think of Rudyard Kipling, the great British author who had 6 best friends that never let him down. And their names were who, what, when, where, why, and how. And I think it's like writing a paper or who's on your team and figuring out how you're going to get to the top and what are you going to do, when you're going to do it, who you're going to do it with. So when I think about those things, when you're struggling, you've got to ask yourself, okay, did I get away from my daily disciplines, which is usually the case?
Yeah.
Right? Getting away from the daily disciplines. And again, the fundamentals of saying, doing what I have to do when I have to do it, even when I don't feel like doing it, that's it. That right there is the formula for me. Don't want to exercise. Later on, Robert, you might go, hey, I don't feel like it, but you're going to do it. You know why? Because you've conditioned your mind, right? It's an induced state of mind. That's what a good attitude is. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's an induced state of mind. I'm making a choice to get out of the funk and get into the game.
Yeah.
I'm making a choice right now not to make an excuse, but to say, I'm going to do something about it. So excuses to me are the nails that build houses of failure. And if you're not careful, as my friend Clay Guida's brother, Jason Guida said, you'll soon have a mansion built. Now, isn't that great? Yeah. I mean, I met with Jason. I've become good friends with Clay, not like we're hanging out barbecuing every day or fishing together, but we're pretty close when it comes to staying in touch with each other. And I met him multiple times. He does the introduction to my website.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer and just all-time great. Yeah.
That's just a great guy. I don't know if you've ever met him.
No.
He was just such a great guy. And all the guys over at Team Alpha Male for that, they're all upbeat, pretty enthusiastic. That's where I met Dave. Dave's a phenomenal guy.
I know. So, and we brought him on, and he has a great attitude. And
yeah. But I go back to those. Clay's brother said it, and he nailed it. We were upstairs, and the guys were drilling in the octagon, And I had finished up giving a talk down below with a group of about 40 people, fighters. And so I'm up there talking with Jason, first time I got to meet him. And we got talking, and I mentioned that quote, that excuses are the nails that build houses of failure. And that was the end of my quote, right? And he said, yeah, and if you're not careful, you'll soon have a mansion built. I said, dude, I'm stealing that without apologizing. Picasso said, amateurs borrow, professionals steal without apologizing. I'm taking that one. He goes, go for it. So I said, I'm going to invoice you. I mean, you'll have to invoice me to get, you're going to make some money off that one. And he laughed really hard.
That's solid.
That's a solid one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have my team. I have a team of about 7 people, and they're all. None of them really ever worked in the real world. They all kind of started with SHEATH, and it was like family, friends, whoever was willing and wanting to work for free for a while, which most of them did. And then now, 10 years later, we're paying them, and they have salaries and
that's
benefits, and it's great. But I still want more from them, and I think they all do pretty good, actually. But what's a good book maybe I'll preface this. We're constantly reading books as a team. Like we just finished Who Moved My Cheese. Right now we're reading Delivering Happiness by Tony Huish, who started Zappos. And I was thinking about the Jocko Willink Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
But what book would you recommend we read as a team? Just off the top.
Well, I think as a team, here's one that's going to be, I think this is a good one. There's 2 books that I like when you know there's more in you and you need to get the potential out. There's 2 that I like. One is No Excuses by Brian Tracy.
Okay.
And he really hits on that. And he doesn't cut corners. He just tells it like it is. Max Out by Ed Mylett is one. Ed is Mylett, the spelling. Max Out. He's got this new book called The Power of One More, and that's a great theme right there, because the power of one more is what you and I are talking about right now. Is how can you get more out of your team, and you can get more out of your team when you challenge them to commit themselves to becoming more than what they are. You cannot become who you want to become by remaining who you are, right? You have so much more potential, team members, in this room. You've only barely tapped it. Like this exposure today, being with an awesome interviewer like you, Robert, this is just so cool. Because your style is so laid back, and I love it, and it opens up for a great dialogue here. But I love it because it allows me to grow. You see, if you plateau out, you're done. Complacency becomes the thief of all future achievements. It robs you. It suffocates you. It's like that great mixed martial artist that lures you into that cobra-like move and then strikes. And the next thing you know, you're tapping out. And you wake up and you go, that was one heck of a dream. What happened to me? Right? So the key is you always have to be the infinite game, Simon Sinek. School never gets out. You got a road. You got 2. You know what I like about his book? At the very beginning of that book, The Infinite Game, he says you come to a fork in the road. There's 2 paths, the path of fulfillment or the path of winning. And so we all think about winning, right? Winning's a great thing. But again, going back to what I said earlier, hitting the goal is a great thing, but it's what you had to become in the process of achieving it. You had to become someone you were never before. You never were that person before, right? You want to achieve things you've never achieved before, you're going to have to become someone you've never been before. You did in the Army. Your leaders made you become somebody that you weren't. And it took you to a level. Now you understand the value of grind, discipline, teamwork, and continual evolving into something more and better. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not to be greedy. People think it's like, oh, how much money can you make? I always say, don't do it for the money. Do it for what you're going to do with the money. Mm-hmm. Huge difference, right?
Totally.
Huge difference. Yeah. So those 2 books. Anyway, yeah.
Well, now I was going to say, I love to work. Even if I had, 10 million or 100 million, I think I would still be pushing the envelope when it comes to business, because I enjoy it. That's my fun. You know what I mean? Like, I can only
Absolutely.
go relax and do recreational things for so long before I'm like, but this is fun. But the real fun is business and challenging.
Yeah.
Achievement. Yeah.
Isn't there something I don't know about you, I'll ask you, because I know once I get into the flow of the day of like in the morning, my mindset, how I start is so important. It's like an athlete, right? How you prep, how you prepare, how you prep for anything determines where you're going, right? And how you're going to get there. And when you get there, are you going to be where you want to be? And so I'm always looking at like, okay, once I get in, oh man, the energy starts going. And I just get into this flow, this tempo, the state of mind. It's like when I go hit the speed bag, and I'll do that later tonight.
Nice.
I get into this flow, and my mind is like that of a musician, a composer. I just get into this tempo, and all of a sudden, so many business ideas come into my mind. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, man, I got to put that in my phone, and then I got to write this down or whatever. So, yeah, so there, for a lot of us, it may be different, but we're all similar this way. When we get into that state of flow, look out, world. It's like you cannot be beat. You feel like you are on top of the world. And that is the feeling that you should have, because it's tough to get through the grind of the day, right? Darren Hardy, who wrote a book called The Compound Effect, said it best. To be successful in anything, it's arduous, tedious, laborious, and all of the above. I could tell you that it's like Rocky. It's all sunshine and glory and roses and all whatever. I don't know whatever he said again. But
quote.
yeah. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? I just love it, because it isn't. The people that are recognized publicly are those who are privately, on a daily basis, going about their business in a way that others aren't willing to do, right? And that's the test. Ray Kroc had a great quote, and this is one to keep. This is a keeper. And I use this in the talks.
McDonald's, go ahead.
McDonald's, Ray Kroc. He says, as long as you're green, you can still grow. It's when you ripe is when you begin to rot.
Nice.
Oh, man.
That's
like
cool.
Me just saying that right now, I got goosebumps going all up and down my arms, because I'm telling you, that is the truest statement I've ever heard. When you think you've arrived and you're something, guess what? You're now ready for the downfall. Mm-hmm. You're ready to fall. I've been there. I've done it. And so I'm a great person to talk about it. I was having a lot of success in a certain area and financially getting there. And I started to manage my money and manage my business. Got my tail handed to me. Regroup, baby. Regroup. So I had to go back to the mindset of my athletic background, which helps me tremendously, is like, no excuses, Danny, get up. You got people that believe in you. You got people that are counting on you. See, that's the one thing in a team that I like, and I'd like to share with you. And sounds like you've got a pretty cool team, and you want them to continue to grow. And one of the things that I say to them is they should just make a personal commitment to say, how great of a salesperson or how great of a leader can I be? Instead, start asking yourself this question: how far can I go? Instead of how great I can be, how far can I go as a leader, as a salesperson, as a father, a coach, whatever, right? Because our job as coaches is to get our teams to believe in themselves and their potential, and to have them visualize the experiences that they will have. One of my favorite books I've ever read, it's right behind me. It's called Empires of the Mind, written by Dr. Dennis Waitley. And in that book, he has one quote, and I've never forgotten it, and I think about it every single day. It's, who you see is who you'll be. Think about that. Who you see is who you'll be, right? What do you want to become? Right?
It took me a second to process that, because it's like because if you look in the mirror, you see, but who you see in your mind, like who you want to be or whatever type.
Yeah. So that's one to kind of just digest and meditate on a little bit there. But I always like that. That's not getting too far out there. I'm just thinking in the reality of seeing who where you want to be. That's really what hitting a goal is. Tony Robbins says it's just taking the invisible and turning it into the visible. Right? Taking the invisible, turning it into the visible. And he's a guy I do some following because I like about him. He's no nonsense and he doesn't make excuses for himself. He says, I get down like anybody else. I get depressed. He says, but my depression lasts 1 minute because I've allowed myself to be depressed. He goes, I do. He says, I allow myself to be super depressed for that 1 minute, but no more.
Whoa.
Isn't that something? Because I don't know, like I get in those areas that it takes me a little bit to get out, but I don't let it last long. And I think about what he says.
Yeah, I wonder. It's like, what could you possibly have to be depressed about?
I know. Which goes to show you, right? Money,
success, all of it.
Yes. What does it really mean, right? What is success, right? Jim Rohn says success is what you attract by the person you become. That's a great point. He's right.
Yeah.
By the person you become, what do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And so it's an ongoing work. Again, back to what I said at the very beginning of the interview, and that was, hey, we're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm no better than anybody else. The only thing that makes me different or makes you different from me or anyone else is that we're keeping our eye on the prize. And what is the prize? The prize is let's continue to grow daily. Let's empower the lives of others that we surround ourselves. Let's play a role in the big picture, right? And have fun doing it. And keep going, have fun doing it.
Yeah. I mean, because then there's all these different areas of life. You have your friendships and your business and your physical fitness and marriage, kids. And like, I feel like I neglect a lot of my friendships, unfortunately, due to my just focusing on the business. And then I'm married and I need to have balance. That might be something to look into a little bit better,
Yeah, well, I think we're all on that journey of trying to find the balance. Robert, I agree there. I once heard Darren Hardy say it's hard to be balanced because you're feeding something while you're starving something.
Yeah.
Right. But I believe getting back to the things that we'll cherish the most, and that would be the humans that are in our lives, in our spouses or friends, our children. You can't get those times back. I know there's multiple times I'd love to have over again. You can't beat yourself about the past. You gotta deal with the present. John C. Maxwell put it best, right? Yesterday's gone, tomorrow's never promised, but today each and every one of us gets to create their very own masterpiece. Gosh.
Yeah, man, but you have so many quotes. I've read a lot of books. I mean, like Think and Grow Rich was my kind of Bible. And
Napoleon,
yeah, he's the best. And then I've read like all of his books and like The Secret and Gary Vaynerchuk's books. I've been reading. And it looks like all of your books are of this kind of genre, and I love them. I'll be reading the stories of the achievements of others in the past, and I'll cry because it's just like, the odds were against them. They shouldn't have made it, and they did.
I'm glad to hear you bring that up because you talk about some of those people that were. So I'm 64. I'm coming up on 65 here in early August. And I feel I've still got a lot of energy, and God willing, hopefully I'll have a lot more life to live and with family and see grandkids grow and develop and all that good stuff, right? And still have a lot of fun times in the business world. But one of the things I often think about is those early days of pioneering the business and learning the struggles of sales and just understanding how a business works. And those were some of the people: Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Earl Nightingale from Conant. This is Earl Nightingale. You become who you think about every day. It's so good. Yeah. And I still listen to him sometimes. I catch some of his stuff, and I mean, it's amazing. right? It's amazing. Og Mandino. That's a great book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. What a journey. Read his story. I won't get into it in depth, but Robert, read his story. It'll bring you to tears. Read his bio. It will bring you to tears.
Og Mandino?
Og Mandino. OG, and then it's Mandino. Mandino. And he wrote a book called The Greatest Salesman Part 2 also. And I love one of his vows of success in there. And when you get that and you check into it, it's pretty cool. We're born to succeed, not to fail, born to triumph, not to bow our head in defeat. We're born to toast victories, not to whimper and whine.
Wow.
And I've never forgotten that. It's like, man, this guy came really close to taking one of the most treasured gift in the world, our life. He came very close to taking his life. And when you read his story, I know I was like, man, whew, that it was a tough one. It was great for me to read it because I realized that, you know what, no matter how tough things get, make a call to somebody, talk to them. How you doing? Lift their hearts up. If you're even thinking about somebody that's a little down and out in the business right now, get on your phone, call them and say, hey, I was thinking about you. Recently had a young man that I used to coach and stuff, and a lot of young men, going through tough times and stuff.
Yes.
So, call these people, say hello, how you doing? What's going on? How you making it through, right? So there you go. And,
it's crazy how many people are so destitute. I don't know if that's the right word, but they just don't feel like they can overcome what challenges they're facing.
Yeah. So we all got our daily battles, and so in that regards, it's nice when you can have a group of friends. We become the average, they say.
Yes.
Of the 5 people we decide to spend our time with, right? So I like to fly with the eagles.
Yes. Yeah.
But I love to help those that are struggling too, because I know the struggles. And, again, I'm not like, oh, poor me, because guess what? There's people that got it really tough. Like you said, destitute, and they have it tough. So all I can say is I hope that if you get a chance, lift somebody up. How's that?
Because you might need somebody to lift you up at some point. And I did find myself recently being like, I don't want to hang out with depressed people. I'm trying to fly with the eagles. And but just having your perspective mentioning, but you do need to help those when you have the opportunity, or that you can, I guess, because we all need help sometimes. And
that's right.
It's all a give and take. This life, it's not all
isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, Robert, what I was gonna ask you is, did you actually do some mixed martial arts yourself?
I've trained, I practice, and I've been doing it since I was about 20 in my living room. Great. Yeah. And then when I joined the Army, I learned that they had the combatives program, which is basically jiu-jitsu, and I was really excited about that. So I got involved in that as much as I could. And when I got out, I've trained at many gyms over the years.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I love it.
Great.
I just got into boxing not too long ago, and because I always kind of thought it was just for brutes, and you're no offense, but I was thinking they weren't that smart for some reason.
No offense taken. I think it's great. I don't know.
But then
the pugilistic background hurts you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but when in practicing and just learning the combos, it's like, okay, you try it then if you think you're so smart.
I'll tell you.
Mental.
It's a science.
Yes.
It's a science, the art to hit and not get hit, and the ability to shift and control the weight distribution aspect of your body. It could be just a little slight adjustment, right? Boom, 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 an angle that creates someone to miss, or you can hit. Mm-hmm. And I love the science of it. And I love the mental aspect of it, that you're in a chess game with someone. Mm-hmm. You just happen to have gloves on, a mouthpiece, a headgear. Exactly. And
then you get the beautiful feeling of the connection,
Yes.
even just hitting pads. I love that, and the exertion. You just feel really good afterwards. I always feel
adrenaline's flowing, huh? The adrenaline's flowing. You're moving. You got tempo. You got rhythm. That's what I'm talking about again. Later on today, I'll just be hitting the speed bag and the big bag, and I do a lot of shadow boxing, and I do the shadow boxing to keep my little cardio going, my hand speed going, and so that gives me the energy to get through the rest of the day, or and get ready for the next day.
Do you have it in your gym? You have like a garage or whatever?
Well, I don't. I have a gym. So we live in a small little gated community here, and I go literally out of the gate and go about a mile at the most, and I'm at the gym. At the gym.
That's nice.
So, and it's got all that stuff upstairs. So I'm one of the guys that's up there doing it, and then I do my lifting down below. But it's a great thing, and it keeps my mind sharp and alive.
I know you don't probably spar, but correct me if I'm wrong, but do you still like hit pads with people, or just do kind of the solo workout?
Solo. Okay. Now, if I was in an environment where they had that, I probably would get in and spar a little bit. I'd be up to it. I definitely would do it. But no, I just like to keep myself, kind of toned and tight and somewhat feeling good. And then I just love to keep the reflexes and the mind sharp. Right.
Keep the body in shape. Yeah. People don't realize maybe that is good for your mind. It's like medicine for the mind.
Absolutely. I gotta say, talking with you today and hearing you give me your feelings about certain things in your life have helped me today to say, hey, you know what? It's okay sometimes to sit there and say, I doubted myself. I'm human. Or I used to not be very good at this, and now I've gotten better at it, right? And we just need to expose ourselves to those areas so we go, hey, and that's what I was talking about earlier. People don't do certain things because they fear it. They fear the things that might happen, that will never happen. And they end up laying in bed in the fetal position, sick to their stomach, right? And it becomes debilitating. Instead of saying, you know what? I'm going to find out what this fear is. Matter of fact, I'm going to discipline myself to not only understand what the fear is, but I'm going to take action. I'm going to actually do disciplined action. It's a state of mind. Okay, why not me? If somebody else can do it, why not me? Right? Why not me? Exactly. My daughter, in 2008, my daughter said one day, she goes, Dad, I think you should do motivational speaking, inspirational speaking. She goes, I listened to you talk to the wrestlers at the high school. They're fired up. They get out there and they're hustling. Their eyes are big. They're listening to you. Their ears are open. And I said, Alice, you know what? Last night I had a dream. I was in front of the entire high school, at my high school, Pleasant Hill High School, which is now closed. And the whole gymnasium was filled with people. And I'm giving a talk and they're going crazy. They're on their feet clapping. Now, I can't even remember what I was saying, Robert. But I told Alice, I said, I had a dream last night. She goes, Dad, I'm telling you, you should do this. I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I was afraid to do it.
Of course.
And 3 days later, I'm driving a client on some business. He says, I'm going to sit in the back of the car working on my computer, and I'm going to have you talk with this gentleman named Mikey Medeiros. He sounded like Joe Pesci. And Mikey be in the front seat going, hey, Danny, what book are you reading right now? Come on, tell me. And I was laughing so hard. And I said, okay, I'm reading the book, The Little Red Book of Sales. He goes, okay, get to the meat. Get to the meat of it. Typical guy, like he'd be up for the Northeast, right? He says, get to the meat of it. I said, okay, personal philosophy drives attitude drives actions drives results, and results gives you your lifestyle. And all of a sudden I see the computer in the rearview mirror, the computer come down, and the owner pops his head up and he says, can you repeat that? And I did. He goes, what do you eat, man? What do you drink? I want some of it.
Yeah.
I eat and drink you. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, you're my purpose. You're my passion. My job is to help you win today.
Wow.
And he goes, I've never said this before to any salesperson that was taking me to go see some equipment. He says, but I'm buying from you today. And I said, well, I appreciate that. He said, you just treat me fairly on the price and the machinery, and I'll buy from you. And I said, great. He goes, but I want to talk to you about something more important. We got done, dropped off Joe Pesci, Mikey Medeiros. We get in his office, and Rick Jennings, who's a good friend of mine today, and we still do personal growth together. And he said, Danny, I need you to talk to my company. Now, stop and think about that for a moment, Robert. And that's something, I have a dream. My daughter says to do this, encourages me to do it. And then this customer says, I need you to do it. He goes, just treat me fairly on the price. I'd like to do it in about 2 weeks. Put something together for me. I got home. I went to my office that was in the classroom that we had for the kids. And I got on the whiteboards and started working out my very first motivational talk, inspirational talk. Isn't that something? That's how everything has a start. Pretty cool.
And the synchronicity of your daughter mentioning it to you, and it like gives you more of a motivation or impetus to act when you feel like the universe is conspiring with you.
You've got to take action, right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Most people, this is what I love right here. Boy, if there's something the audience gets from this, this would be a good way to kind of tie it all up, really. Yes. Yeah. And that is, be careful that you don't become, because you read a lot and study or listen to audios and you get inspired, you get motivated, right? Be careful that you don't become the most knowledgeable, enthusiastic underachiever. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't take action, you'll never know. It's the boxer that does everything else but doesn't get in the ring and really tests himself, right? And so there you go. Get on the mat. Get in the fight. And get in the game. Get in the game. Get on the court. And you're going to get humbled. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get slapped. Listen, I've been pinned in front of people, and I've been knocked down. And I'll tell you, it's embarrassing. But the one thing I never did is I never quit. And it's what you said and I was reading a little bit about in your LinkedIn and your bio a little bit about when you read Napoleon Hill. You just can't quit. Right? You said that. You said you can't quit. Right? You got to fight. You got to go on. There you go.
I love it. We can end on that note, because once you quit, it's over. So just don't quit. Don't give up. Keep growing. Even when you get knocked down, like Rocky said, just keep getting back up and fighting, and you'll make it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Thank you for that reminder too, because as much of in the fight game of life, it is so awesome to hear you say that right at the end there too. Don't give up. I feel like you're coaching me. You see, that's you're like my coach. Like my coach. And I will say for a fact that if you've got coaches and people that believe in you and they actually say that word to you, those words, I believe in you. It's amazing what can be accomplished. I had one coach look me right in the eye at the NCAA Division II National Championships, tap me on the shoulder. He's my junior college coach. Hadn't seen Bob Erickson for a while. We turn around and he looks at me and he goes, Danny, shook my hand. He said, Danny, I always knew you would make it, son. I always knew you would make it here. Wow, that belief system that he had in me, you see? And it inspired me to go on and do more in life. Anyway, there you go.
Well, I believe in you, Dan Prado.
Right on, Robert. I believe in you, man. I believe in you, man. And let's keep winning together. I always say to people, until we meet again, keep on winning in the game of life. And welcome to the House of Champions, where champions get to learn and respect one another. I love it. All right,
love it.